All right, welcome back to Starting with a Story. My name is John Lee, and today we have Brittany Kulick right here with us, and she's interviewing all the way from London. So give her a big shout out for all you London listeners. I don't know how many of you there are, but hello, Brittany. Thank you so much for being on. How's it going?
Good. Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, of course, of course. I'm really excited to dive into your story of sweets and traveling and blogging. So I guess the first thing is, could you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you started and what is your story?
Awesome. Well, I'm in London right now, but I'm actually from Texas.
Oh,
I've
wow.
been on the road. I've been on the road since August of 2015.
Hmm.
My background in the States was marketing. Before that, I did a little bit of wedding planning.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, the week that I turned 29, I actually quit my job, sold everything I owned, and boarded a one-way flight. Uh,
What?
I had a plan for 2 years. I was going to do working holidays in New Zealand and Australia. And 2 years just keeps getting pushed out and pushed out with the next adventure.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so there's a lot there, but that's awesome. I love everything about that. So you said you started this in August of 2015, it seems.
Yes, I've been blogging since March of 2015,
Hmm.
but I left the US in August of 2015.
Okay, cool, cool. And so the one thing that like fascinates you the most is at 29, like what brings you to do that feels like such a drastic change and a drastic life-changing moment where you're just like, all right, everything I own, see you later, and then you just leave. So can you talk a little bit about that process of you talking to yourself and talking to your family and friends and how you came to make that decision?
Yeah, I mean, I loved my job. I loved what I was doing. I have awesome friends in Dallas, but I love to travel so much. And it had always been one of those dreams saying, wouldn't it be great if one day I could go and travel the world? We've all got those dreams of someday.
Right.
Um, and I read somewhere about these working holiday visas in New Zealand and Australia. They end
Mhm.
at 30. And so I just kind of kept thinking about it more and more. It's like, I've got the American dream, right? I've got the good job. I've got a car. I have a cute puppy that I love. And, I'm like, how could I ever leave all of this behind?
Hmm.
Um, because if I take a break from real life, will I ever be able to go back again?
Hmm.
Um, and I remember I told my parents and a couple of my close friends that I was thinking about leaving and going and traveling, and they were all so supportive. Some of them
Oh, nice.
asked, "We've been wondering when you were going to do this. You've been dreaming about this for so long." And I remember sitting in my bed, holding my dog, and looking, in my closet at a closet full of pretty clothes and cute shoes, and knowing that my best friend and roommate was, two doors down, and just thinking, would I be crazy to give this all up?
Hmm.
Uh, I could choose the stability of a job and family and friends close by and stuff, or I could take, the ultimate leap, get rid of everything. My dog is with my parents, by the way, and they're,
Okay, I was gonna ask that,
yeah,
yeah.
um, and go travel and explore and see what the world has.
Mm.
And, um, you know, stuff is just stuff, and that can be replaced. And, Facebook and WhatsApp and everything is miraculous for keeping in touch.
Hmm.
And so years later, I'm so glad that I made that choice.
My goodness. Okay, so I feel like everyone, like you kind of mentioned at the beginning, but like everyone has that dream, and you ask them like, "Oh, what are you looking forward to doing?" or "What are you working for?" and all that, and they're like, "Oh yeah, like I'm gonna retire, I'm gonna travel the world," and a lot of people they never end up doing it. So I guess what would you say to the millions and billions of people that are kind of on the fence about it or have always been saying it but never really execute and go and do it?
Yeah, I mean, tomorrow's promised to no one.
Hmm.
So for me, 29 was exactly the right time. Wasn't married, didn't have kids.
Hmm.
I had a savings account that
Nice.
allowed me to, travel. I meet so many people who leave home, they're like, yeah, I had, $50 in my bank account. I'm just going to see what happens. And
Oh
for
my
them,
gosh.
it's working. And oh my gosh, they're so much braver than me. But for me, it was just the right time. I
Mm,
felt like I had, I could take the skills from university and my time working,
mm,
and kind of take that on the road with me. And
mm.
so who knows what that would have looked like if I waited until I was retired. I could accidentally look the wrong direction crossing the street
Oh my
tomorrow.
gosh. That
So,
is very true.
yeah, so I figure, why not do it now when I can?
Mm, mm. So, going on with this, it sounds like a lot of wonderful things have happened since then, but I'd like to know more about what is your relationship with sacrifice and the kind of other side of things that maybe didn't go so well once you took this huge leap of faith.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so I left Dallas, Texas. I had a great job. I had a nice apartment. I had a car, and you know, 2 weeks later, I was volunteering in a hostel where I was supposed to be helping with light cleaning and reception, and I ended up being the housekeeper for the whole entire hostel, cleaning toilets. Um, so from director of communications to toilet cleaner in 2 weeks was quite the life change.
Yeah, I bet.
Um, and then a few months after that, I moved to Queenstown, New Zealand, which is still the most beautiful place I've ever been in my whole life. Um,
Dreams.
but to be able to stay there, rent is so exorbitantly high
Oh,
that
yeah.
yeah, I bought a non-working car and I lived in that for about.
Like it didn't run like
Oh, no, no. I was having dinner with some friends, and all
mm,
my friends have these cute little vans, and so they were all parked outside of this hostel. And so they'd all come inside for dinner and, showers and all of that. And I was living in the hostel and getting ready to be kicked out because it's not long-term accommodation. And they
mm,
said, okay, well, you either need to find somewhere else or, you could stay in a car.
mm.
And my friend said, have I got a deal for you? Um, and unfortunately, after a glass of wine or two, that
Classic.
sounded like a fabulous idea.
Hmm.
About 2 months in a broken down car, and then I moved into a house with 21 people. So my
Wow.
life looked a little bit different from, 28 to 29.
Yeah, for sure. And then, so what happened after that? Like, how did you, I guess, upgrade from the house or the car to the house to whatever you're at now, which is, it seems like a hotel room in London.
Yeah, so Queenstown was definitely more of a focus on friendships. And so
Mm,
for me, it was like, I don't really care where I am, what my living conditions are. Um, I would rather live life to the fullest and experience all that I possibly can. And so it was a really huge time for me to let go of some of the stuff
mm,
that I still held was super important. And so after leaving Queenstown, I moved on to Australia where my jobs were a little bit better paid and was
mm.
able to share with only one flatmate, and
Oh, nice.
um, much better. And now I'm lucky to be in a hotel here in London.
Yeah, for sure.
And now I'm lucky to be in London in a hotel room, because they've asked me to come here and write about it.
Oh, wow. That's so cool. So, so your blog is like your main thing right now? That's like your, I don't know how to describe it.
Yeah, so I have my blog, and so that's where I get to go and do awesome things like stay in hotels. And I'm going to Morocco for a surf and yoga retreat in a couple
Mhm.
of weeks.
Wow.
But I also do like VA work and freelance marketing. So I manage like Instagram and Pinterest accounts for companies and individuals around the world.
Mm. So obviously, like social media has done a great deal of things for many people, and it seems like it's done for you as well. What do you think is the most beneficial thing that's happened through social media for you and other people that are kind of in the same industry?
Yeah, I mean, for me, without social media, my career really wouldn't exist.
Mm,
And so I think it's really awesome to be able to connect with people around the world, in a way that wasn't possible before.
mm,
I mean, I have face to face conversations with people that, you know, from India 1 second, from Utah the next second. And I've got this community online that it's really a face to a name where just 10, 15 years ago that wasn't possible.
Mm. Yeah, 100%. It's really refreshing to hear that there's a positive side to social media because nowadays, like a lot of people are saying so many of the negative sides. So to hear a positive aspect of it is very refreshing, and I think gives people a better whole round look at the idea of social media. So thank you for sharing that.
No, I mean, I think that even the things that are created for good can eventually turn bad, but if you
Mm,
focus on the positive aspects of it, like the community and building people up through it,
mm.
it can stay a really good thing.
Awesome, awesome. From what I've noticed, you do a lot of things with sweets and like yummy, delicious looking indulgences, I guess. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah. So when I was creating my blog back a few years ago,
Hmm.
I was trying to figure out what would set me apart from everybody else. And so that's, like everybody says you've got to find your niche. And so for me, I'm like, well, I just really love dessert.
Mm,
That's been a common theme throughout my whole entire life. And so I was like, well, I'm going to try and figure out a way to meld my love of dessert and my love of travel. And
mm,
so I came up with the Sweet Wanderlust, which is for people with a sweet tooth and a taste for adventure.
nice. Oh, I like that. It's like a little catchphrase you got there. That's good. It's so funny because I'm more of like a second entree guy than a dessert guy. But your desserts do look pretty delicious, so I can't say anything against that. What do you think is a huge misconception in traveling and blogging and food in general with your, I guess, line of work?
Ooh. Um, I think kind of going back to the social media thing, people only get to see what I want them to see.
Hmm.
So I think people think that my life is super easy and it's always, the fun, flashy, incredible food.
Yeah.
And, you know, there's the days of living in cars too.
Hmm.
And so I think that can kind of take people to a place where it's like, oh, this person's got this perfect life, forgetting that you're only seeing the highlight reel.
Mm. What do you do for you? I feel like when you're traveling a lot and going and visiting all these new places, and it seems like a lot of stuff is always on your plate, but do you have the time to kind of step back and do something for yourself or just relax or, express yourself in a different way?
That is an incredible question and one that I'm still kind of struggling to find an answer to.
Mm,
Because especially now that I've aged out of all the working holidays, I'm fully freelance. So if I'm not working
hmm.
and hustling, then I don't have an income. So I'm
The
constantly
hustle is so
on,
real.
for real. But yeah, so if I am going out to eat with friends, it's like, oh, well, is there something I can write about with this? Or,
Mm,
if I'm doing this adventure, I need to make sure and take all the pictures because that's a blog post. And so since getting to London, I've made some really good friends to like really fun fitnessy kind of activities,
mhm.
which as a dessert blogger, I typically don't write about workouts. Um, I've gotten into bouldering and I did an adult gymnastics class the other day. And those are
Whoa.
things that aren't typically don't make it to Instagram.
Hmm.
So
Cool. No,
it's a good time to put the cute.
yeah, for sure. And I think that's really awesome. Even though you are dessert based, it's good to, I guess, advocate for an overall healthy lifestyle as well. And, indulge in these sweetnesses, but also, take care of your health and do fun activities that, you enjoy and whatnot. So I'm glad you found a group of people and things to do that you can do for yourself. I think that's really awesome and super important. Another question that I had was, what is your ideal trip look like now that you've been to like a bunch of different places and seen and met all these different people and whatnot? What would you say to someone that I guess never has traveled before and you need to make their ideal trip? Like, where would you take them? What would you feed them? All that stuff.
Really difficult question. Um,
I'm sure there's
hmm.
so many things. I'm so sorry.
No, hmm. I mean, I think each person has their own kind of dream trip.
Hmm.
And even for me, if you ask me this question again tomorrow, I'd probably have a completely different answer.
Hmm. Hmm.
I love London because I love the buzz of the city. And so, I've got a friend coming here from Texas next weekend, and I'm so excited to take her to this magical pop-up bar that's kind of themed after, Chronicles of Narnia and Harry Potter,
Oh,
and
that's so
you make your
cool.
own potions. But then, I had friends come and visit me in New Zealand, and we got to go up in a helicopter and climb on a glacier. And so
Jeez.
I don't think I'm any closer to answering your question, but I think that every single city and town has something really special and unique.
Mm,
Um, and so I think so many travelers make the mistake of keeping their nose in the guidebook, um,
mm,
which the things are in the guidebook for a reason. And I am a big advocate of doing some of the touristy things.
yeah.
Um, but then, put the phone away and go just talk to people in the shops, because
Mm,
you're going to learn so much more about the culture and the people by talking to the people who live there.
mm. In regards to that last bit with the culture and the people, what's kind of the one of the most surprising moments you've had when learning about a new culture or meeting a new person in a new area?
You know, since I've started traveling, I've just really been surprised by how similar everybody in the world is.
Mm,
You know, um, in the US, we often see other places as very other.
mm,
Um,
true.
and when you go to places, whether you're, on the island of Tonga in the Pacific Islands, or, in the bustling streets of India, or, in the little shopping alleyways in Jerusalem, you get to talking to people, and they love their family. They want to work hard. They want to provide. I've been surprised at how much goodness there is in the world.
Mm,
I was told to fear before I left. Everybody was so worried about my safety. And I know that there's bad people out there, and I know that there's really bad situations. But I've just been so lucky that the majority of people I've met are just good.
mm, that's awesome. Have you had any not so great experiences when meeting all these people? I know you just mentioned all the great things, but was there an experience or something that was maybe not so great?
If I have, it wasn't bad enough to stick in my memory.
Oh, that's awesome. That's really awesome.
I I really have been so lucky.
Mm,
Um,
cool. So, what is, I guess, on the horizon? Like, there's so many things happening. I know you mentioned Morocco, I believe, but what else is there that you're super excited for and looking forward to in the future?
so in November, I'm going to Norway, and I'm doing a liveaboard to swim with orcas, and that I am
Wait,
so stoked.
what's a live a what? A what board?
You like go and you stay on a boat for about a week to
What?
swim with killer whales.
That's
I
so
know.
cool. What the
Uh,
heck?
yeah. So one of my friends is an underwater photographer, and
Wow.
I met her in Western Australia,
Mm,
where she takes photos of whale sharks. And then she also, so she goes from winter in Australia to winter in Norway to take pictures of killer whales. And
mm.
she's organized a week for people who follow her photography. And so I'm just so excited and trying to find as many parkas and everything as I can possibly find, because it's going to be so cold.
Yeah, yeah, I bet. Goodness gracious. And you said you're swimming alongside like these massive creatures? Holy
Yeah,
schnitzel. Jeez.
well said.
Cool, cool. I'm gonna change gears a little bit, but I'm curious to hear your thoughts on what do you think people aren't doing enough of nowadays?
We talked a little bit earlier about how great social media is and
Mm,
how it connects people, but I think kind of like I alluded to how people are seeing the highlight reel, and
mm,
it's so easy to compare your life to another person's life when you're really only seeing the highlight.
mm,
I feel like we're not doing enough of putting away our phone and having real conversations.
mm,
Um, I think we're all often so focused on curating this perfect life that we forget to look around at the people around us and find out, like, are you actually doing okay?
mm.
I know your last Instagram picture looked really awesome. You were smiling and laughing and having a great time, but is that real?
Yeah.
Um, and so I think just checking in on the people around us and having real conversations.
Mm. going along with that, how do you keep yourself grounded, and how do you not fall into that sort of comparison mindset? And what do you do that keeps you sane, I guess?
Oh my gosh, I'm still trying to figure that out. No, I mean, I've got some amazing friends.
Mm.
And I think just, especially with Instagram seeming to change the algorithm every other day, um, not putting my worth in Instagram.
Mm.
You know, it's likes are nice, but I would rather affirm my actual human being friends
Mm.
with real words than with likes on a post or a couple word comments.
Mm.
So I think just really making friendships that are based on encouraging and affirming each other in the real world instead of the social world.
Mm. Wow, I really like that. Yeah, because nowadays everything is just kind of, it's been a big talk for however long, but just being affirmed by numbers on a screen and being super content with like, oh, I got 400 or 200 today. Like that was really cool, and that was like the highlight of your day. And I feel like that's, it's just different. It's just very different, and not necessarily the most healthiest thing when you're comparing yourself to a number.
No, it's such a weird world. And like, I was in London this time last year
Mm-hmm.
taking very similar pictures. And this time last year, my likes were at, 1,500 per picture. That was just, if I put a picture up, it'd get, 1,300, 1,500 likes.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm struggling to get 400 or 500.
Mm.
I haven't done anything different. And if my worth was on Instagram, that would
Yeah,
really, really
that's
upset me.
a third of your self-worth is just gone.
So, it's still, I get frustrated at Instagram regularly, but who I am as a person doesn't change because of less likes.
Mm. Mm. Going along with kind of your whole journey and things that have, benefited from that, what was something that was kind of holding you back from really achieving where you are today,
Mm,
if anything? I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I think that I made the decision to go at exactly the right time.
Mm.
If I had gone right after university, I wouldn't have had the life experience that I have now. So I don't know. I'm sure if I were to do it again, I might do a couple of things differently, but I can't think of any of them right now.
Mm. Yeah,
Sorry.
no, not a problem, not a problem. Is there anything that you are currently struggling with in your pursuit of your passions? Are things kind of slowing down in one area or the next, are things going really well?
Things are actually going awesome right now. Um, I try and be grateful every single day
Mm.
for the time that I live in. I mean,
Mm.
10, 15, 20 years ago, even 5 years ago, what I'm doing wouldn't have been feasible. Yeah, I mean, I feel so grateful every single day that I get to partner with tourism boards around the world to promote destinations. I mean, before you had to be a traditional journalist sent on assignment to do these things, and now I just feel so lucky that I get to go new places, and I have a bucket list of places I want to go to, and then I form partnerships and then get to write about it. I mean,
Wow.
it's the dream.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. So how many countries have you been to thus far? If you know
I'm
off the
at
top of your head.
56.
Oh, 56? Oh my gosh. I think I'm at like four. Um, Out of all of those, do you have like a particularly favorite country that you love going back to over and over again, or is there not one of those?
So I've had a top three,
Mm.
and recently my top three has changed. For the longest time, I said Israel, Italy, and New Zealand.
Mm.
And Italy's gotten kicked out,
Oh my goodness.
unfortunately. I love.
How dare
I
you?
know.
I'm kidding.
But I went to Vietnam this summer with my dad, and it was such a fun trip to be able to do that together. But the Vietnamese people are amazingly friendly.
Mm.
The food is some of the best I've ever had. I actually ordered a Vietnamese coffee today at breakfast because I'm missing them so much.
Mm.
So yeah, Vietnam for the friendly people, awesome food. New Zealand is the most beautiful place, and I just love the faith and historical aspect of Israel.
Mm. Mm. What are some of the lessons I feel that you've learned when going to new countries and experiencing new cultures? What are some of the big takeaways that you've gotten that I guess you incorporate and implement into your own life now?
I'm not sure. Going into new places and being an observer.
Mm.
Um, in the US, I was so comfortable because I knew how things worked. You go into a new place, and whether you're in Texas or in California, it all generally works the same. But to go into a new culture, I feel like I've learned to be an observer first
Mm.
because, you know, if you go to France and you have dinner and you put your hands in your lap during your meal, it's very wrong. Like, you're supposed to keep your hands on the table.
Wait,
Um,
really?
yeah,
What?
who would have thought? But those little things that are important to different places,
Mm-hmm.
you never know if you go in as an American in France or an American in Australia.
Right.
And so sitting back and watching the way that other people do things and asking them to teach you, like, what's one thing that, I might not know about your culture.
Mm.
So I feel like I'm more of a learner now than I was before because I know that I don't know a whole lot.
Yeah, that's really cool. I find that super insightful just because out of all the experiences that I've had with like service and volunteering or like going to different places, it's really just learning about immersing yourself in the culture just so you can maybe begin to attempt to understand more than you did the day before because there's so much to know and you know being able to say that you don't know a lot or that you don't know everything about this culture. I think that is very I respect that a lot, and I find that very admirable for you to kind of understand that and realize that and see that now and do that every time you go to a new place. I think that's really awesome and really, really cool. Really cool. So another question that I had is we talked about what you think people aren't doing enough of, but what do you think people are doing too much of now? If you had to give a different answer than the social media aspect.
Yeah. Oh man, I should have held on to that one. Um, I feel like there's a lot of talking happening right now. I mean, I guess it's kind of similar to the last answer.
Mm-hmm.
But especially being outside of the U.S. right now in what seems to be a very, very heated political climate,
Yeah, for sure.
um, I have loved getting to travel and just listen to other people and have debates that don't need a resolution.
Mm.
Um, and so I think now it seems to me that everybody's trying to get their opinion heard and trying to convert to their own opinion.
Mm.
And I feel like nobody ever ends those arguments in a good place.
Oh, no one's smiling at the end of those.
So, you go in, you try to convince somebody to believe like you do, neither one of them does it, and then you've perhaps just ruined a friendship.
Mm.
And so I think maybe we're doing too much arguing, expecting a resolution instead of having conversations trying to understand people.
Mm. Oh man, I can't say I love that more, I guess. I had an interview with a good friend of mine, his name's Sam White, and he's all about activism and allyship and just speaking out, but the main goal is to have a discussion, to have, an actual conversation and communicate and listen to each other. And it's not about everything that you just described with like going in with your mindset, hard as stone and trying to convert people and, bring them to your side because that's not going to work. That doesn't work. And it's all about just meeting someone where they're at and listening to them and really hearing what they have to say and what they believe in. Cause, it blows my mind that people just kind of immediately say like, oh, what you believe in is stupid. What you believe in is wrong. Like, how can you say that? It's just, I really resonate with a lot of what you said, basically.
Especially when our core beliefs are so important to who we are. And it's
Mm,
like, when you're saying that your beliefs are stupid, are you really saying that I'm stupid?
mm,
Um, so I think just trying to be very cautious in the way that we enter those conversations
mm.
to affirm the person, even if the belief isn't necessarily one that we would agree with.
Yeah, 100%. And I think this could kind of relate to what you were saying, how it was surprising that when you go to all these different places, although we are different, there's a lot of similarities within us. And I think, this is a very common thing too, where it's like a common problem that happens, but at the same time, it's not an easy fix, but we could go about it a little bit better. And I feel like everyone around the world goes through these difficulties and these conversations that, with a little tweak of saying something a little bit differently or listening a little bit longer could really change the outcome of that whole conversation. I know you mentioned that you had to basically give up pretty much a lot of your belongings and things that were important to you. What are some of the things that you absolutely could not let go of and you still keep today? If anything, I don't know.
Um, so for the first 3 years of traveling, I traveled with a giant Texas flag. Um,
Just like wear it as a cape or something.
yeah, it's been down beaches, it's hung in museums all over the world. I figure as long as I'm in a place for longer than 3 days, it goes up on the wall. Um, you know,
Hmm.
my little bit of to remind myself and everyone around me that I'm a Texan no matter where I am.
Hmm.
Um, hmm. As far as stuff, it's funny. I thought that I would miss things a whole lot more than I do.
Hmm.
Um, I have been home to visit twice, and it's really nice to have grown-up clothes there.
Mm. Yeah.
Now in V-neck shirts pretty much every day. Um, but yeah, I think I miss the people and the ranch dressing
Oh.
about the U.S. Anything else?
That's so funny. Um, so another thing that I was curious about, I know we're jumping from topic to topic, some more lighthearted, some more heavy-hearted, but this question is, what were some of your greatest failures? I hope it makes sense. Does that make sense? Okay.
Are we speaking about like blogging kind of like
You could do it for anything you want.
um yeah, I guess when I left Texas, I I had no I mean I had built a blog, I had a website, I was putting things onto it,
Hmm.
and I had no strategy, no plan. I had no idea actually what blogging was, except that, people were doing it and I wanted to help people
Yeah.
who were planning trips. Um, and then as I've gone on, I've realized there's so many resources. There's so many like blogger support group kind of, share ideas. And
Mm-hmm.
I wish I had known about that so much earlier. Uh, my first like my go-to is always like, oh, I'll figure it out on my own. And I don't want to ask for help because I can figure it out and I don't want to bother anybody. But realizing that relying on each other is a whole lot more helpful than trying to do it on your own. Like
Mm-hmm.
I was reinventing a wheel that didn't need reinventing. Um, and so I think that was one of the biggest failures early on, was just not learning from other people.
Mm. What was one of the most helpful things you've learned from another individual?
So I guess my very first blogger trip was a trip
Hmm.
to India. I was living in New Zealand. There's a competition. It's called the Kerala Blog Express. And
What is that
so,
about?
well, they flew 30 of us from 25 countries into India to travel on a bus for 2 weeks.
What?
And I still have no idea exactly how I ended up on the trip. I was really just starting out. I had no idea,
Hmm.
like I said, what I was supposed to be doing. But all of a sudden, people from elementary school and middle school I hadn't seen since then were going, my friend Brittany has entered this competition, vote for her. And all of a sudden, in like the day before the competition closed, I got into second place for the US
Oh my
and
gosh.
ended up on the trip. And so I was on a bus for 2 weeks with bloggers who knew what they were doing.
Hmm.
And I think the friends that I made there who weren't protective about their ideas and what they'd learned.
Mm.
I mean, I had no idea that you could, pitch to a tourism board and say, hey, I'd like to come and write about this. Here's my story idea. What do you think?
Mm.
I was just going, oh, well, I'll just work really hard and I'll pay for this trip and then I'll write about that. And it's like, oh, well, there's partnerships. And it's like, oh, I had no idea. And so just having those people who really like took me under their wing and were like, hey, this is what blogging is. And that was so helpful and has been foundational in what I do. I try to share as much as I can because there's room for more people.
I like that. I like that. So you don't feel that it has blogging become oversaturated? Are there too many people, or is it, like you said, is it like there's so much more room for people? What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, there's new blogs that start pretty much every single day. But I think everybody comes at it from a different perspective. And so, there's definitely, there can be a sense of competition, but honestly, there doesn't have to be because, my audience is mostly American and Australian. My friends who I'm, friends with here that have blogs, well, most of their audience is from the UK. So even if we're writing almost the same thing, it's not a competition because we each have our own audience. I wish that there was more of that kind of sharing going on.
Yeah, for sure. So when you blog, when you travel, when you document your journey, what is your core mission? Like, what do you hope people get from reading your stuff or watching you travel or doing your thing? What do you hope for? What's your mission for that?
I just want to bring a little bit of sunshine to people's day.
Like that.
I always say, I haven't ever seen anybody upset while eating a freak shake. We got a shake with donuts and ice cream cones, and it's just something happy. So I hope that when people come to my blog, that they feel empowered to travel. I hope that the tips that I give are good, that I give little quirky ideas for afternoon teas here in London or, the best bungee jumps in New Zealand. And then, when you see my Instagram, I hope that people smile. There's definitely enough things to frown about on the internet today.
Yeah, awesome. Where do you find where do you find most of your inspiration for like new things and whatnot?
I really love Instagram. I spend so much time scrolling through desserts on Instagram. Other blogger friends who've done, similar trips beforehand.
What have been some of your favorite projects that you've kind of participated in or partnered with or what have you?
The India trip to Kerala was just so special because there were so many amazing bloggers on the trip. We got to see so many cool places. I, about a year ago, partnered with Munster Vales Tourism in Ireland, and they had, it's like a few different counties together who've created this interior area of land called Munster Vales. And it actually had just launched as an area 2 days before we were there. So we got to be some of the first ones to experience Munster Vales as its new name, and got to horseback riding and so that was really neat getting to be one of the first ones because right now there's not a whole lot of firsts, it seems. There's so many people have been there before, so that felt really special to be one of the first ones and to share it with an audience.
Cool. Well, it looks like we're coming a little close to the end of our interview, but before, so on our podcast, I'd like to ask three specific questions to every single guest that appears on. But before we get to that, I want to just take the time to acknowledge you and really thank you for your time here and just sharing your passion with other people through food, through travel and blogging. I think that's really awesome that you have found the balance between the three and are choosing to share that in order to help other people. I think that's super awesome. And I really, really enjoy the fact that you have such a strong passion for helping other people. And I enjoy your bubbly personality and your enthusiasm. I think that's really awesome. And I think people can, I think you do well with your mission and trying to bring sunshine to other people's lives. So I really appreciate your time and thank you for what you're doing. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
For sure. All right. So are you ready for these final three questions?
Yes.
Okay. So the first question is, what's been your favorite chapter of your life?
Ooh. I don't know. It's been a good book so far. The one that I'm currently living is a pretty good one.
What about it?
Well, when I first got to London, I was a little bit worried about what was next, and I didn't have a whole lot on the calendar. I mean, I had the Orca swim and a family trip for Christmas, but that was kind of it. And all of a sudden, every single day on my calendar has something fun and exciting to do. So it's just really cool how opportunities just keep coming about.
Awesome. Second question is, if you had to give a name to the next chapter in your life, what would you name that chapter?
Less plans, more present.
I really like that. That's really good. That's good.
As a former wedding planner, I have spreadsheets for everything, and not a whole lot of room for spontaneity. So I think maybe a little bit more living in the moment.
Amen. Amen. And today's final question is, if you had to give a title to the book of your entire life up until this moment, what would you title that book? For Brittany Kulick. Kulick?
Eating dessert first.
Eating dessert first. I like that. Do you want to elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, kind of like, I quit my job and sold everything at 29. I don't want to wait until the end. Because, so often you have a big meal and, if you like 2 entrees, then I guess having a big meal is like the ultimate. But for me, when I have a big meal, it makes me so sad because it means that I'm missing the best part, which is dessert for me. So I think living life in a way that I'm doing good and I'm enjoying life and I'm not saving anything, whether that's experiences or things that need to be said, for a time that seems better suited.
Awesome. Eating dessert first. I think you should write that book. That sounds really good. Cool. So you survived the final 3 questions. So now's your chance. Where can our listeners find you and learn more about your blog, The Sweet Wanderlust, and see your travels and the food and learn more about you?
Cool. My blog is The Sweet Wanderlust, so just thesweetwanderlust.com. I'm on Instagram as The Sweet Wanderlust, Facebook the same. Yeah.
Cool. Do you have any final words to all the listeners and your advice or insight or what have you? You don't have to.
Yeah, no. Thanks so much for listening. Keep being kind and eat dessert first.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Brittany. Stay safe, stay you, and really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.